Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today we are doing a May reading wrap-up video. Kind of an April-May one, because one of the books I did read in April, but like right at the end, and it went into May, so I'm still counting it for May. So in May, I read a total of 5 books. I guess technically 5.5, because I read half of a book at the end of May. I just haven't finished it yet. But I finished a total of 5. And then I also had a DNF this month. I had a 5-star read this month. May was a crazy month for reading. So the very first book that I read is The Absinthe Underground. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know anything about this book when I saw it in a bookstore. I just picked it up, saw this cover, and went, yeah, that's coming home with me. Because look at this. It's so pretty. It's stunning. And even like the underneath of it. Like, are you joking? That's so cute. So I saw it in the store and I was like, yeah, I have to take it home. And I'm totally not kidding when I say this, and it goes to show how financially irresponsible I am with my money when it comes to making book purchases. I didn't even read the synopsis of what it's about until I made it home. And I was like, oh, yeah, what's this book about? I just totally saw the cover and went, I don't care, I'm taking it home with me. But basically, The Absinthe Underground is about these 2 roommates, and they were roommates. And it is very much, and they were roommates vibes, because these roommates are pining for each other so bad. It's a female relationship. They're pining for each other so bad the whole book, which isn't really my vibe, but it was cute anyways. The best way to describe this book is like a Studio Ghibli film meets Barbie and the Diamond Castle meets, like, I don't know, a heist book. Nothing else is popping in my head. And it's just so cute. These 2 girls, you know, they're roommates, one of them is a thief, and they get caught stealing a poster by the owner of the establishment that the poster is for, and she tells them that she's a fae, and she needs them to sneak into the fae realm and steal the royal jewels from the fae queen of one of the courts. I don't really remember. Like I said, I read this a month ago, so all the details aren't fresh in my mind. But yeah, that's the whole premise of the story. These 2 girls have to go into the Fae realm and they have to figure out how to steal these gems and get them back to their world to give them to this lady who has employed them. And it is just a really cute, feel-good story. I gave this book 3 stars solely because it is really cute, but it reads a lot more middle grade to me. I don't know. I'm not really sure what this book is categorized as. I think it's supposed to be YA, but it reads very middle grade to me in a lot of parts. And not that I don't like middle grade, but obviously at my, you know, big age of mid-20s, middle grade books usually don't interest me as much anymore. There's some books like Percy Jackson series. I mean, it's just so well written and such good characters. But this just read a little too little kiddish in some of the parts. Like, the solutions to problems were really simple and they overcame them like really easily with not a lot of problems and stuff. So that was kind of my only issue with the book, was it just felt like there was no stakes, really, because everything that happened, it was like, they did something, a problem occurred, they solved the problem, they moved on. Like, so easy and fast and simple. But that being said, like, this is more of a cozy fantasy type thing anyways, it's not high stakes, so that's fine. It was cute, the romance was cute, the world was fun, and I, as someone who is in love with Barbie and the Diamond Castle, that is one of my favorite Barbie movies, the vibes were immaculate, and it really does give that vibe. So 3 out of 5 stars, just simply for it feeling a little too below my age level, but really cute story. I highly recommend, especially if you like cozy fantasy. And also just look at the cover. Look at the cover. You need this cover on your shelf. You need it, okay? Moving on from the Absinthe Underground, we have my one and only 5-star read this month. I think only like my second 5-star read of the entire year so far. Maybe my third. I'd have to check my reading journal to check, but I think this was only the second. And that would be none other than the Scarlet Alchemist by Kylie Lee Baker. When I tell you this book changed my personality. I read this book. First of all, this is Fairy Loot edition, so if you see this and you're like, oh my god, that's beautiful, I want it. Fairy Loot edition, look it up, try and find. I bought it from someone online, so totally worth it. I read this book in a day. In a single day. I was at my friend's house too. I was spending the night with my friend, and we were like, you know what, it's a rainy day, let's have like a reading hour where we just read for an hour. No, I read the entire thing for like 6 hours. I was like, I will talk to you later, I have to finish this book. So I just ignored my friend for like 6 hours so I could read this book all the way through. It was totally worth it, because this was one of the best books I've ever read in my life. That might be a little bit dramatic, but no, really, like, this book was so good. It's about this girl who lives in ancient China, and she wants to become a royal alchemist. So she practices alchemy, and she is really, really good at an illegal form of alchemy, which is necromancy, resurrecting the dead. So she can bring people back to life with alchemy, which is illegal and really hard to do, and she is really good at it. And so she gets the chance to compete to become a royal alchemist, and the closer that she gets to achieving that goal, the more she gets caught up in the problematic politics of the royal family, and she finds out that maybe her dream isn't everything that she thought it was, and that now that the closer she gets to her dream, the closer she gets to putting herself and her family in danger because of it. And it's just so good. It's so good. The romance is a subplot for sure. So cute. Loved it. The main character is just so badass, and she's so determined, and she's so interesting. The whole premise of these like living corpses that are brought back from the dead is so cool, and the plot twist, plural, plot twists with an S on the end. I was losing my goddamn mind. I was losing my mind. Again, I say this all the time. It's really hard for a book to catch me off guard, or a movie too. I very rarely get those moments where the plot twist surprised me and I have that like, oh my god moment. This book gave me not one, but 2 of those moments. One of them I kind of saw coming, but not enough that it still shocked me. But the second one, my friend had fallen asleep and taken a nap while I was reading, and I woke her up with how loud I was freaking out about the second plot twist in this book. I just cannot recommend this book enough. It made me cry. If you want a book that will absolutely devastate you, this is a great option. For anyone who has seen The Untamed, who has watched The Untamed, it's a Chinese fantasy drama. One of my favorite genres? One of my favorite dramas. This gives similar feelings to that show, where like it's so good and the romance is so cute, but like everything else about the story is actually really dark and sad and like rips your heart out of your chest. So if you like those vibes in a book, this is the one for you, let me tell you. It also has some like mystery aspects, and the like antagonist of this book is so well written and just so genuinely like not creepy, but just like she puts you on edge. I'm a horror fan. I read a crap ton of horror books. The antagonist of this book scared me more and had me like on the edge of my seat fearing turning the page more than like the past 3 or 4 horror books that I've read. Like genuinely, I don't know what it was, but like the way she was written and just how devious she was, I was so scared for the main character anytime they interacted because I genuinely, like, I feared, which rightfully so, because it anyways, read this book and then comment down below what you thought, because I don't know anyone who's read this book, and I need to talk to people about this book. It's so good. 6 out of 5 stars. Amazing. I love it. Anyways, moving on. I could talk about this book all day. So the next book that I read is Murder Road by Simone St. James. And going back to the Scarlet Alchemist, when I said that it scared me more than some horror books I've read recently, yeah, this is one of them that I feel like the Scarlet Alchemist scared me more than this book scared me at any point in it. Again, also this is the Illumicrate Evernight version, so again, if you see this cover and you're like, that's so cute, look it up. Hopefully someone is selling it and you can get your hands on it, because it truly is such a nice copy. And the original cover is kind of ugly, so I'm really happy to have this version of it. But Murder Road is a horror story based around this couple. They're on their way to their honeymoon when they take a wrong turn, and they end up finding a hitchhiker that they let enter their car, and they realize that she has been stabbed and she is bleeding out and dying. And so they rush her to the hospital where she ultimately dies. And the couple become the main suspects now in an ongoing murder investigation. And they find out that apparently there have been other hitchhikers who have been murdered in this area, in this town. And they're basically becoming these scapegoats of, they're the only people who have witnessed anything to do with the hitchhikers. So they kind of take it upon themselves to have to try and prove their innocence and take it a bit further and decide that they want to try and figure out what's been happening here in this town. So I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. And I will say it's because it was an enjoyable read. I read it in, I think, like a weekend. Like, I think it took me 2 days to get through it. It was good. I enjoyed it. However, it was not scary, like, at all, in my opinion. And, I'm pretty hard to scare also when it comes to, like, books and TV shows and movies. So I try not to let that affect my rating of stuff like that. But this genuinely, like, I went into it expecting like a really good horror book, even just a really good mystery, and I think it was kind of lackluster on all fronts. It was a fun read, it was interesting. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I enjoyed reading it. I don't regret reading it. But yeah, it was just a little, I don't want to say boring, because it wasn't boring, but it didn't feel like a lot was happening, and it just wasn't scary at all. And it also took a direction in horror that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting this to be very much like a true crime type horror, and it actually went in the direction of paranormal, which I wasn't expecting, and I didn't like the way that it went towards the paranormal direction, but that's just me personally. It's a good book. Also, I did have a gripe with the writing style, kind of. At one point, in the middle of the book, the main character just randomly addresses the reader. Like, she starts the sentence with, like, she's, like, talking to herself, sort of, and then she says, "Reader, if it wasn't blah blah blah, then blah blah blah." Like, I can't remember the exact quote, but she addresses the reader. When I tell you, that took me so out of the book. Like, I had to stop reading for like an hour or so because it caught me so off guard, and I did not like that. And it's the only point in the book that, like, it does that. So it was really jarring, and it was really weird, and it was really hard to get, like, immersed back into the story, because I didn't feel like I was, like, in this story, like, watching this happen. I felt like I don't know. Do you get what I mean? It was just really weird. And I don't necessarily dislike when books address the reader, because like Percy Jackson does that, and I love Percy Jackson, but it's done well, because you know from the start that the reader is like a active participant in the story almost, like you're being told this, whereas this made no indication that the reader was supposed to be involved in the story, and then all of a sudden the main character is talking to the reader. It was just weird. And it also, another thing of like, it felt like there was a lot of really convenient things happening, like they're trying to find information about like the killings and stuff, and all of a sudden these random teenagers just come up to them and are like, yeah, actually our hobby is looking into the murders and stuff. We have all of this information that we've stolen from the police station. We're just gonna give you all of the files that we've stolen and let you look at them. And it was like, that felt really convenient. You know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know. There was a lot of moments like that where it's like, oh, really lucky for them that this person knows all the information and came up to them and said, hey, I think you should know this information. So, yeah, it just didn't meet my expectations. I was really just wanting a good, like, scary story, and it wasn't scary. The mystery was a little lackluster. Yeah, 3 out of 5. Just a very average, middle of the road kind of thing. But if you like horror that's not very scary, because obviously I know there's some people who get scared really easily, so if you want to delve into horror that's not super intimidating to you, I think this is a good place to start, because it is a good like horror mystery for people who don't like to get really scared when reading. So I highly suggest this if you are kind of more of like a scaredy cat type person. I think this would be a really good read for you. But if you're someone who likes like really scary stuff when you're reading horror, this is probably a pass. It's not scary at all. Moving on, we have our DNF for the month. My second of the year. My second ever. I like never DNF books. I will preface this by saying that this is also a book that I picked up solely because of the cover and the vibes. And that is Sanctuary of the Shadow by Aurora Asher. I just thought the cover looked really cool, but it was the edges that got me. I bought it from Target. My Target's book section is like really small, and they never get the cool special editions or like sprayed edges. Same with my Barnes & Noble. It's pretty small, and they only just recently started getting like sprayed edge books, but even still, like, we don't have a very big selection. So when I saw the edges, I was like, ooh, those are really cool. I like those. Like, the cover's really pretty. It looks like a circus. And I very briefly read like the synopsis about, it's like, oh, okay, it's about like an elemental circus. Clearly there's some romance involved, like whatever. Sounds interesting. Elemental circus, romance, like fantasy vibes, cool edges, sure. I hate smut. I hate smut. I'm not a smut reader. That's not my thing. I do not want to read about that stuff. I don't mind if it's in a book a little bit. Like, A Study in Drowning has a scene, like a sex scene in it. Whatever. That was fine. It's like, I'm not like a super smutty. I want my books to be zero spice. Zero spice. I want them to be bland chicken. Okay? I don't even put some pepper on it. Bland. That's how little spice I want in my books. This was a lot of spice. This was a lot of spice. I went and looked up the author, and all of her other books are like, my boyfriend the demon, my demon, my master. And so clearly her niche is very much like monster smut books, which is fine. Like, if that's your thing, well, actually, still don't get this book, and I'll explain why in a second, but like, if that's your thing, go for it. I just personally, like, I'm ace, I am sex repulsed, like, I don't want to read about it. I want very little of that in my stories, but if that's your thing, go for it. The other thing that I hate about this book is that it is just bad. Like, it's just really bad. I didn't even make it that far into the book. The writing is horrible. the characters are just so weird from the start. It also has like multiple POV, which is very iffy for me on whether I like it or not. But it doesn't even do it in the sense of like you know how a lot of multiple POV books, like the new chapter will start with the new character. No, this one doesn't make any indication of whose POV it is. Like, you just start reading and you're kind of like, okay, I guess we're reading from this person's POV. And then even in the same chapter, it'll switch to a different POV. So it was just really weird. I didn't like that. And then the writing was just bad until you got to the spicy scenes. The standard of writing went up so much when the spice came in, which is so funny to me. But everything else with the writing was just so bad. I kid you not. Like, the main character on, like, the second page of the book goes up to another character, and she sets up, like, the plot to come with just this, like, ramble of being like, I can feel that something is coming, something bad is coming, but I can't figure out what. All I have is this sense of dread, but I know that someone needs my help, but I don't know who it is. But if I don't help them, then something terrible will happen. And I read that and I shut the book for a bit because I was like, wow, okay. And then we get to where the male love interest gets there, and he's in a cage. Immediately, my girl goes in there. She doesn't know anything about him, why he's in a cage. She just sees him in there. She sees he's in a cage. He doesn't talk also, by the way. Like, he doesn't talk. Girlie just starts flipping out. Like, she is gnawing on the bars of his enclosure. And it's like, this is so wrong. I have to get you out of here. I have to break you out. This is horrible. I can't believe they locked you in here. And this, again, like 2 seconds after she meets this dude, he hasn't said a word to her. She doesn't know anything about him, except he looks crazy looking. He has, like, wings. He looks like the freaking, they say his eyes look like the abyss. Doesn't know anything about this dude. He doesn't talk to her. He just looks scary. And my girl is just insta horny and is like, we gotta get you out of here. Like, I feel a connection. It was just weird, man. It was just so weird. DNF. Anyways, moving on. So I actually can't find my copy of the book, so I'm gonna have to put a picture here, but the next book I read is The Silent Patient by whoever it says right there on the cover of the book, because I don't remember who it's by. This might be a very controversial opinion, because I know The Silent Patient is a very beloved book by many. It was okay. It was okay. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Basically, The Silent Patient revolves around this guy. He's a psychotherapist, and he wants to be the therapist for this woman who murdered her husband years ago and has not talked since. So he really just wants to be the one to get her to talk and to open up. And you just sort of follow his life and him working with this patient. And in my opinion, like, it was a little slow at parts. And I know this book is, like, really well known for its plot twist. Like, that's what everyone raves about this book. I've seen so many reviews of this book that are 5-star reviews, and people just rave about how good the plot twist is because they didn't see it coming, and it's just so good. And, again, I don't know if it's just my general sense of being able to, like, feel out plot twist. I don't think it is in this sense. I just think this was the most obvious plot twist ever. Obviously, I don't want to spoil. Well, actually, you know what? For this book, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, and then I will say when I'm going to get into spoilers. So, still spoiler-free. It felt like there was just such very obvious foreshadowing, even just right from the very start, that led up to the plot twist. So it was extremely underwhelming. I feel like that's probably the main reason that I didn't rate the book as highly as maybe I would have. But also, like I said, I just felt like it was pretty slow. It felt like the book went on longer than it needed to, especially to get the point across that it got across, like with the plot twist. Yeah, the plot twist was just not a plot twist. It was just where the plot was naturally and logically heading, in my opinion. But other than that, like, it was a good book. I enjoyed the story. And I think maybe if it hadn't been so hyped up, and I had such high expectations because everyone hyped it for, like, this crazy plot twist and, like, blah, 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 maybe I would have rated it higher. But going into it with such high expectations and wanting, like, this crazy plot twist, and then that being the least twisty plot, I don't know. That genuinely was the most logical plot line ever. I don't see how anyone could not expect that to have been where the story was going. But I don't want to make anyone else feel bad about that, because some people just get really into the stories and they don't see that, or they don't pick up on the like foreshadowing as much. So I feel like I would have so much more fun reading books if I wasn't so annoying. If I wasn't such an annoying person who was always like, oh, I saw the plot twist coming, I feel like I would have such a better time with books. That's the end of the spoiler-free review. Going into spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled by this book, if you haven't read it, skip to whatever time I put here. For anyone who wants to hear my opinions about the plot twist, keep watching. I picked up that this man was not right from, like, the very beginning. Right from the start, he feels like a sketchy, weird person. Like, the first thing we learn about this dude is he has a weird obsession with this girl who murdered her husband. And, like, just his thoughts of being like, I need to be the one. I'm the only one who can get through to her. I need to be the one to see her. I can make her talk. I know people have spent years with her, but I can do it. Anyone who has such an obsession with a person they don't know like that, that's weird. That's weird. Alarm bells, red flags, ding, 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 ding. Like, I did not like that. And then, like, as you go through the story, the way he talks about other people and the way he interacts with other people is so weird too. I felt like every time I learned something new about this man, I was like, he's so weird. He's not a good person. So, like, as we found out more, I just immediately was like, he has something to do with it. Especially when we get to the part of the journal sections where she says how she sees a man who she thinks is watching her. I immediately was like, oh, it's probably this freaking weirdo narrator. And then we start finding out about, oh, he thinks that his wife is cheating on him. As soon as that moment happened too, the way he reacted to that, I was like, something's not right with him. Like, him following her around, him becoming, again, so obsessive about something. Like, we got to the plot twist, and I was like, yeah, obviously, this man is weird. We've known this from the very beginning, that he is a weird person who has a very weird connection with this girl, with this weird obsession with her. So, like, I don't understand how anyone was, like, surprised by that. I get it's like the unreliable narrator trope, which I do like, but, like, in this scenario, I feel like it's pretty easy to see that he's unreliable from the start. Is it just me? Am I the only one who was not surprised by that? Because I feel like I've read so many reviews where people are like, the twist is amazing, and I'm like, I can't be the only one who, like, saw it coming. Moving on, my final book that I finished in May is The Cemetery Boys, which had been on my TBR since, like, October. So it's been on my shelf for a long time, and I finally got around to reading it, and I am so happy I did. Oh wait, who wrote this? Aiden Thomas. Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. It was really good. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Basically, the book is about this guy named Yadriel. I don't know how to say that name, so I'm gonna go with Yadriel. But he lives with his traditional Latin family, and they have these abilities where they can see the dead and like sense the dead, and they can help them cross over. And Yadriel is trans, and he's having a hard time being accepted by his family and his community, and so it's causing a lot of issues for him because he just wants to be accepted as the guy that he is, and his family is not allowing him to be accepted and to be a part of the men's side of the culture that he is a part of. They keep wanting him to do the jobs of the women in like the community, and so obviously it causes a lot of like strife for him because that's not who he is. But his cousin gets murdered, and he decides that he's going to be the one to find his cousin and figure out what happened so that his family will finally see him as a brujo, and treat him as like the man that he wants to be treated as. But he accidentally summons Julian, who was kind of like the school bad boy, who mysteriously was murdered, and he doesn't remember how he died or who killed him. And so now Yadriel and his cousin have agreed to help Julian figure out kind of what happened to him before crossing him over so that Yadriel can officially become a brujo. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I liked the fantasy aspects of it. I loved seeing kind of the struggle of trying to be accepted in the identity that you choose for yourself and who you are, because that's still like such a problem today, and I feel like it's really relatable to a lot of people. Obviously it's really great trans representation, which I love, but even I think for people who aren't trans, it's just something a lot of people can relate to, of like having an important part of who you are, your identity, not be validated or not be respected. It has a lot of other LGBTQ plus representation, which is really nice. So I love that. I thought it was great. I have a lot of friends who are LGBTQ plus who struggle with their identities and having their families like accept that. I myself am also LGBTQ plus and have had some issues. I just went on such a long yapping session. Editing me later, I know, is going to hate me. I don't know how much I'm going to include in that because I really just talked. But yeah, let's talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. I really loved the representation in this book. I loved the story. I loved the characters. I thought they were all really great. It was a very, like, I don't want to call it a cozy fantasy because I wouldn't necessarily call it cozy, but it was just a very, like, feel-good fantasy. Obviously there's a lot of like hardship and a lot of struggle in it, but I think the way that the characters came together and they like overcame these things was very heartfelt, and it just like felt good, and it had a very good ending. So yeah, very heartfelt, like fantasy little mystery. The reason I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The reason I gave it 4 out of 5 is I just personally wanted a little more to like the mystery aspect of the book, and I feel like the book went way more in the direction of romance. And anyone who's watched my channel knows that I am not the biggest romance girly. I do love romance, but as a subplot, and this book felt very much like the romance became the forefront of the plot, which again isn't a bad thing. That's just personally not my cup of tea. And also like the mystery aspect of the book was just so good, and I just wish it would have been pushed a little more because it was really interesting. And I feel like there's a big part of the book where that kind of becomes a background thought, and the romance is much more towards the forefront. So I would have liked a little more of like the mystery. And then I also thought the reveal of like the antagonist was pretty obvious and just really lackluster. Like, there wasn't a lot of build up to it. Like I said, that there's a big chunk towards the end of the book where it was just really focused on the romance. The mystery aspect of it was really pushed to the side, and then all of a sudden it's thrown back in your face and it's like the big reveal. So it just felt kind of like, oh, well, like, okay, here we are. I wish there was something leading up to that that was a little more exciting. So that was kind of my only gripe. That's why I lost a star. Was just, I just wish the mystery was a little more prevalent and had a little more time to it. But other than that, like I said, I love the characters. I love the story. I loved the ending. I thought it was so, like, so good and so heartfelt, and like it just sat really nicely, you know? Like, it was just so, I just felt so good. It like took me through a roller coaster of emotions in like the final like 2 chapters. So highly recommend. 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really good. And that is it. I have another book that I mostly read in May, but I haven't finished it yet. I have like a few more chapters, so I left it out of this video. I'll put it in the next video for my June wrap-up. But those are all the books that I read. Like I said, we had a wide spectrum. We had a DNF, we had a 5-star book, we had a lot of like middle of the road, but it was a pretty good reading month for me. I got through a lot more books than I usually do because I've been really busy the past few months, so I was really happy about how much I actually got through, like how many books I got through. And I'm excited for June because me and my little sister have made TBR list for June that is just all like summer slasher kind of vibe books. We wanted to do like a summer-ween TBR. So I don't know if that's just going to only be June. Depends on how many books I get through. I might make it June and July summer-ween TBR. But I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I can't wait to do that wrap-up. I can't wait for some good horror books, I hope. And also, happy Pride, everyone, because it is officially June now when I'm filming this. So happy Pride, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Let me know what you think about the books. If you've read any of the ones that I talked about, let me know your opinion. Let me know if you think I am a absolutely annoying person for thinking that the plot twists were obvious. Because let me tell you, when I watch movies with my friends, they get so annoyed at me when I figure out the plot twist. So just, yeah, let me know if you were surprised by the plot twist, because I would love to like discuss them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.